Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 Lifting. So Type 1 Lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So this all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. So just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I have a very interesting guest. Her name's Cambri Driskell. How's everything going?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Can you just tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've grown up in Alpharetta, Georgia all my life. Both my parents are from here, and I started kindergarten at King Church Christian School, and I just graduated from there in May, so I went all 13 years, and I found myself involved in a lot inside and outside the classroom, inside the classroom working hard in different types of classes and really finding my passion in anatomy, which ties into a little bit about what we're going to talk about, but then also outside the classroom in a lot of service organizations like the Interact Club and the Honor Council, and just kind of finding my place there. I did about every sport there was possible between kindergarten and graduating. Just being at a small school, that's a bit of a luxury doing that. So I did, in high school, I swam all 3 years. I golfed my freshman year. That didn't last long. And then I cheered all 4 years. Swimming is not my forte, but it's good exercise, and I liked doing it with my friends. And then I was just glad I didn't drown most practices. And then cheerleading, I absolutely loved, and I did that all 4 years and got to lead in some capacities there. Outside of school, I have helped my dad with his role in Rotary, which is a service organization, as well as wrote some columns and articles for his recovery ministry, and then involved in church at North Point and that type of thing.
Very cool, very cool. So did the cheerleading kind of lead you into the direction you kind of want to go now?
So cheerleading was something that I just loved being a part of my school spirit. You know, it's hard sometimes with smaller sports teams come smaller scoreboards, unfortunately, sometimes. So that was something that was really special, was getting to encourage my school despite that. And so I was able to do cheer, pick up on it pretty easy. I didn't start until I was in 8th grade, but I did gymnastics growing up. So that part of tumbling and, that type of movement, more strict movements, was just part of my life growing up. Mm-hmm. And then yoga kind of came in separately from that, but cheerleading has now led into I'm cheering at Vanderbilt this fall. So it has definitely gone and weaved itself into my life longer than I thought it would, but I think it's more of just a commitment to finding different ways to move my body. So cheerleading is another way to do that, just like swim was, even though I wasn't great at it. But cheer, I just love in the sense that I get to have a community, some form of a path to lead, and then also just a different way to move my body.
All right, very cool. So you got certified as a yoga instructor. Mm-hmm. All right. So what was the process of getting that certification?
Yeah. So I think I should probably start back in 8th grade to have a full picture.
Yeah, go for it.
My health journey. So in 8th grade, February, I got my first gym membership at One Life. That's how I met you, where I met you. But at One Life, and I went with my mom at 5 a.m. every day during the school year from second semester of 8th grade through my senior year until COVID hit. And so that routine when I first started became kind of spiraled into this like newfound control I had over what my body looks like. Like I had never experienced like, oh, I can, work out a certain way to like make myself look a certain way. And that really kind of escalated into an unhealthy relationship I had with eating. It became like a stressful, just necessary part of my day versus something to enjoy. And then working out became like something that had to be done. Like it wasn't something I got to do. It was something that I had to do. And so I kind of had a wake-up call. That was only about 6 months. And into that, good family and friends, really family, woke me up to that. Like, if you're not going to do something about this pattern you created for yourself, then I'm going to have to step in and do that. And I wanted to keep that control that I had found over myself. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to shift my perspective. So it really came through eating. Like, working out wasn't ever an issue. It was something I did once a day, and it tied into my unhealthy perspective. But once I started eating right and really seeing food as something that is to enjoy, then like the stress went away from it, and then working out became like a healthy partner to eating healthy as well. So that was like began my restoration of my view of my body and my movement and how I fed it and how I really like fed it, literally and also theoretically. And so then I tried all different types of workouts, and during my junior year, my second semester of junior year, I started having like a time set aside for myself every Saturday morning. So I would go to Espresso's coffee shop, which I love. It's incoming, and I would go and do my morning devotion there and have my cup of coffee, and then I would go to One Life to take the hot yoga class right after that. And so Saturday mornings were like my time for myself, and I absolutely loved that time. And at first, it wasn't even about yoga. It was just about having an hour to myself to move my body in a really different way than I did all week lifting weights at the gym. And so when I started doing that, I loved it. But then exams, second semester of junior year, if anybody is listening to this and is experiencing that or remembers it, it was pretty awful. I was studying from the time I got home from school at 2:30 to 12 at night sometimes, like every day, as like a routine for at least 6 weeks as I was taking the ACT and planning for my exams. So yoga became something that I could incorporate into my afternoon to break up my studying, because I'd already worked out in the morning and I had already restored that view of myself that there's really no need to work out more than once unless you have some certain goal, that sometimes requires that. So I was like, well, I can do yoga, and I can still, I feel like a sense of ease at doing yoga because I know I'm giving back to my body in a way that working out takes energy sometimes in a way yoga doesn't. And so I just began doing yoga. At first it was like very monotone practice. It was just like the sun A's and sun B's, and it was nothing fancy because I didn't know anything beyond that. And that's a lot of what gym yoga, because there's actually gym yoga training is not, some teachers that teach in gyms have done a full certification, and others there's actually like a gym fit yoga training that you can do. So that mainly is the sun A's and sun B's. So that's what I've been learning pretty much. But it's still like the restorative power of yoga does not, it's found just as much in the sun A's and sun B's like I found in that time than in what my practice looks like today. But in that, this is a long-winded story, but it's,
it's all good.
Really all the context to how I've come to love yoga is that through that time of learning, kind of just like personally experiencing and being my own teacher for the first time in my life, then I was looking towards college because I'm about to start my senior year at this point, and I wanted a way to make money during college, and so I thought I'd be a personal trainer because I was like, I've trained my mom for 5 years at 5 a.m. Yep. Like, I can train somebody when I'm fully awake, and it's not my own mom, So I was like, oh, perfect, I'll do that. And then I started thinking about, what that actually looks like, because obviously that type of schedule sometimes is more demanding than, like setting your own hours and stuff, because you're working with somebody singly,
Yeah.
like another person.
Yep.
So that looks different. And I was like, that might not be, my grandpa actually was like, that might not be accommodating for a college schedule. And so he was like, I had never thought about this. And he's like, why would you not become a yoga teacher? Because my whole family knew I'd been practicing every day, and like that was a special time in my week, a planned time that I didn't miss. And that's the first time it clicked. Like, I had never been in a true yoga studio. Like, I had never done yoga outside of the gym. And at that point, I was like, duh, like, why would I not? And so I started researching, and then I found Breathe Yoga, which Lauren Reese is the owner. She's fantastic. If anybody is looking for a yoga studio, she's on Sharon Road, and I could not say enough great things about the studio and Lauren. But I found her, and she was a very anatomy-based yoga teacher. Like, there's definitely a more physical and a spiritual side to yoga, and I always say I have Jesus, and that's enough for me. Like, I think the spiritual side of yoga is great for some people, but that's not what I was looking for in a training experience, much less what I wanted to teach others.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my goal, was finding a very anatomy-based, physical, like training experience. And so that's how I ended up at Lauren. Yoga Alliance is the national certification. Like for personal training, you have a few different organizations. Yoga Alliance is the only one that's nationally recognized. And so they have a bunch of schools. Breathe is certified to do that. So I took my 200 hours dispersed into 1 week in a month from August to March. So part of that was doing 12 community service hours, lots of homework based off the anatomy of all the bones and muscular structure of our bodies, and just a whole bunch of sprinkles of all different types of yoga. So that way we would have the resources as teachers to pick what style, what type of yoga we wanted to share with others. So it was the most amazing, beautiful experience, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. So that's a lot of context to say that my yoga journey has been weaved into a lot of parts of my life, but definitely something that I could not be more grateful for now.
Awesome. Now for all the listeners, the Breathe Yoga Studio, that's based in Cumming, Georgia. So that's where both of us are from. So that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I talked there this morning.
Oh, nice. So what kind of yoga do you like? Because I've done like the hot yoga before, and I've also done yin yoga before. Okay. And I've yin yoga.
Yes, you've done yin.
Well, there's this thing called Ramwad. That it's a subscription based yin yoga. So I used to do it every time I went to the when I worked at the hospital. Like right before I worked, I did yin yoga for like 45 minutes to like a half an hour. And so those are the only two that I really know. So what are your favorites?
Yeah, so part of my first experience in my health journey was, okay, if I'm not sweating, if I'm not dying in this workout, then it's not effective. Mm-hmm. And so basically through yoga, I really got the gift of being able to give back to my body through movement in a way that I had never, like, I didn't even know was like possible for me, in like just in the way my mind is wired. Like, I didn't know that would work. And so when I was doing power yoga at the gym, hot yoga, it's very much go, go, go. I loved it, of course, and it still was very influential in my journey, but my practice today looks nothing like hot yoga. So really, when people ask, like, what's yoga for you, and it looks different every day. I think I'm not the typical yogi, and then most times my practice is not longer than 30 minutes, just how my days are. I typically work out for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then yoga is pretty much just ingrained into part of my workout slot of the day, but I wouldn't consider it workout. It just comes after my workout, and that ranges anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. It's a time that, like, I don't look at the time unless I have something I have to do. So my practice is different every day. A lot of days it just revolves around like what I just worked out. So if I've just done, a legs and glute workout, like I'm going to be doing a lot of hamstring opening and lengthening. But sometimes my practice is more like physically demanding and upbeat, and I, incorporate handstands into my practice and push-ups whenever I'm doing a vinyasa flow. And it just, the best part, I think, what I found in yoga is that there's freedom in movement like I had never known in working out.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times the people who want the power yoga, like me, are the ones that need the yin yoga or the slow yoga or just the freedom in yoga than more than anybody else. So when we're doing power yoga, we're up-regulating our nervous system and our muscular system, right? And so our heartbeat's increasing, our blood pressure's increasing, and then on your nervous system, we're just go, go, go. So you're in your fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system, and when you're in that, like, there's no release, there's no relaxation. So our goal in yoga and how I've had to, like, shift the narrative in my mind is to see this time as a time of down regulation. So I'm shifting from sympathetic nervous system where my shoulders are tall, I'm tense and stressed, and finding the rest and digestive parasympathetic nervous system that is really underused in our society as we're go, go, go. So that has just been, I guess, the most gifting thing yoga has given me, is just an opportunity to experience the beauty of down regulating your nervous system, but also just finding freedom to move in however feels best and not a way constricted by any like type of demand for what it should look like.
Mm-hmm. So that's like it's almost considered for you like a meditation a little bit.
I would say like an active meditation. So I honestly don't meditate probably as much as I should. Like, I never. How amazing meditation is. And if you're looking for that, Headspace and Calm are both great apps. Like, I have all the resources. That was part of our training. And I do guided meditations at the end of my classes for my students. But that is something I'm not quite there yet, is meditating myself. And so I like to kind of cheat and say yoga is like my active meditation, in the sense that some days, like, I don't want to even use my brain, so I'll turn on a Yoga with Adrienne YouTube video, who I love.
I follow her too.
Yeah. So especially for people like beginning yoga, she's a great start to a journey. And even now that I've been practicing for more than a year, I still she has something to offer in all her classes to all people. And so some days, like, I just want to shut off my mind, I turn on a video like hers, and other days it's just like I think it's a form of meditation in the sense that, like, my mind can just turn off, because some days it doesn't if I'm planning for a class, but most days it's 15 to 30, 40 minutes of just time where I can do what feels good. Like, that's what I tell students when I teach them, like, you just get to do what feels good. And so you don't have to listen to what I say. Like, what I say are mere recommendations. Like, these cues are not maybe what feels best for your body. And so that's something I've had to learn myself. But, like, when you unlock, like, the beauty of that you don't have to move a certain way, then that is, like, just as much for your mind as it is for your body.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so when I did Ram Water, like, way back, probably like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So this guy, he had this, like, really deep voice and was, like, very calming, but, like, there's sometimes during the sessions of, like, the yin yoga where he would just start talking, and it's like, guy, enough, just, like, just don't say anything, just let me just sit there, because it's annoying. You do just stop talking first. But do you have, like, those times where you think you just talk a little bit too much while you're doing
Absolutely. Like, when you're teaching, so part of my, like I said, my training was the 12 community service hours. So I trained anywhere from, like, friends of mine that I had to Instagram lives. I did those, like, 30-minute Instagram lives all during quarantine. And then I taught athletes, and then like a tennis team, to high school lacrosse boys, because I can get into that was part of my training for athletes. And then just, like, it was a wide array. But in any class you teach, like, no matter what kind, you definitely have this internal dialogue with yourself, because, like, yoga, I would love to have an interactive yoga class. And, like, when I teach my friends, I have a family that I teach for that is a family friends of ours, and I tell them, like, please interact with me, tell me why are we doing this, what feels best. But then when you're teaching, like, I'm holding space for others, so I don't get to ask them for what I'm doing well or wrong. Like, that's not the space for that. That's the space for them. I have to hold space for them to be able to let go of their mind, and they can't do that if they're trying to give me feedback on how I'm teaching. So there's like this internal narrative about like, do I make a joke here? Do I be quiet? Do I like say another cue, or do I just allow for silence? And so the best part about yoga is that there's definitely times to incorporate silence that feel really organic to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we're shaking our hands, building heat in our hands, and then bring our hands to our chest and our belly, like there's time for silence there to like feel the physical embrace, and then like let that portray into like a warm welcome, your welcoming of yourself to your mat. Like there's time for that, especially as we're warming up our body, and then especially in Shavasana at the end while we're calming down and finishing our practice. So like I today had a silent Shavasana, so I basically phased out the music, and they didn't realize it was silent until they did way later.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's time for silence, and I think that is a hard challenge as a teacher, especially for me. Like I can carry on a conversation with a wall, so finding where those comments land, and where they're unnecessary, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, that's like group, like that's what, like me for group training. So there's times where like you need to talk, but there's other times where like during the time, like say if you're doing like a 3-minute workout or something like that, there's, just be quiet and just observe. And if someone looks like they need a little push, just say, hey, come on, let's go. Just keep on moving. So with your okay.
Go ahead.
So with your Instagram live TV, like Instagram TV episodes, so you've also done posts on Instagram too with flow. So what is considered flow?
Okay.
Because I'm like kind of new to this whole thing, so.
No, I think it's great. So, a flow, I guess. Some like a yin yoga is not a flow class. It is not a flowy class. Like you're in a motion, some type of passive stretching motion, and you're there for anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is very much. It's meant to elongate your muscles, so you have to keep them under tension in that passive pose for quite a long time for that to happen. So that is not a flow. There's different types of yoga styles, and you have Bikram, which is like in a very hot room, and you have people yelling at you to get into this cue really, and well, not yelling, it's just very restrictive in the motions. I don't want to hate on Bikram. Or you have like Iyengar, which is very strict, long lines, again, very focused on the posture in the same way yin is. And then you have like flow classes, so you could have a vinyasa flow, ashtanga flow, universal flow. There's all different types of yoga, and I think that's the beauty of my training is I was not trained in any specific type of yoga. I was trained in being given the resources to figure out which kind I liked. So my class, one day, depending on my mood when I make it, honestly, or what my practice has been looking like when I make the class or when I plan for the class, sometimes it's super, super busy, super go, just because like maybe that day, maybe in all honesty, planning for my yoga class was my only exercise that day, and I wanted to get my heartbeat up and my energy up a little bit, and so that might be more of a fast vinyasa flow in the sense that you're movement to breath. So inhaling, arm stretch overhead, exhaling, swan diving to the floor to forward fold. So it's very connective to your breath and movement. And then like a universal, you make these mandala circles in your flow. So you're coming forward, down to your forward fold, and then you're rotating to the back of your mat, doing some type of motion, then rotating to the front of your mat. You're making these circles in both directions. Mm-hmm. And then like an ashtanga would be you're making rotations in one direction and back. So it's very unilateral versus universal is completely dynamic. And I'm not an expert on all these types of yoga experiences for sure, and some people like the more detailed people would definitely like an Ashtanga, where it's very routine based. You're doing the same thing, the same 28 or however many postures for the entire class. Versus a vinyasa, there's a bit more freedom in what that type of flow looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just say a flow in its simplicity is connecting breath to movement. So I'm not holding, sometimes I'm holding a posture for longer amounts of time, but there's still a conscious and intentional connection between the breath and the movement.
Okay.
So like when I post morning wake up flow, I'm cueing your breath as I'm cueing your movement.
All right, very cool, very cool. Yeah. So with you working out at the gym, you haven't been there since COVID, really.
COVID.
Yeah, so like
I took away my membership.
No, that's okay.
I don't know if I can say that out loud.
No, it's all good. I don't work there anymore, so it's all good. So, but so when you were actually at the gym, you know, you would always do like handstands and handstand walks, and like, you know, there's actually one post in my Instagram feed where both you and I did a handstand walk, and you absolutely smoked me. So, how did you get to, you know, at that point where you literally just stand up straight and just go?
So, well, I started gymnastics when, like I said, when I was, I think, maybe 5 when I started gymnastics. Like, my aunt and grandparents have owned this gymnastics facility since I was born. So that was just a natural part of my life, like, that I would go take classes there. And so it was awesome. But there, like, handstands are essential to gymnastics. You learn that in any type of even very basic beginner class, you're doing handstand drills. So from there, I learned what a true hollow body is like, you know, engaging through your core, really elongating your spine and giving you the stability and you would need to do work like handstands. And so really from gymnastics conditioning, I learned the type of connection you have to, you know, hold a handstand, much less walk on it, you know, walk in a handstand. So that kind of carried into my life. And once you learn, it's kind of like riding a bike. Like, once you learn that type of connection, then it sticks with you. I mean, it might get a little rusty, but it can be dusted off pretty easy. And so in my yoga practice, when I was doing it on my own, it's like playtime at the end of my yoga practice. It still is, and it was right when I didn't know anything more than the most basic yoga flow there is, which is like a sun salutation A. And so that would be like the playful time at the end of my practice, like where I could actually do something that like I didn't have to think about at that time. And so like I would do drills against the wall, like doing handstand holds, which are awesome if you're trying to build strength, because a lot of people try and just throw themselves up into a handstand that have never had experience in reality. There's a lot of connection and core stability that comes in that before throwing yourself up. Like, you might find some way to configure your body that's going to help you stay balanced in the air to have a handstand. But that doesn't mean you're going to have the core stability or like the mind to body muscular connection to be able to sustain that handstand hold or walk in it. You know, like you see CrossFit guys just throw their legs up in the air and just walk as fast as they can before their legs get out of that perfect configuration to keep their balance. And there's nothing wrong with CrossFit. I admire people that can do that, because I cannot do that. But
yeah, you can. You really can. Don't sell yourself short. Seriously.
Well, I don't know. But I think there's just a difference in the yoga world, handstanding is a discipline. So it's something that you practice and you do drills for the people that you see such control. Like, I'm nowhere near the such control that there goes into. I mean, there's 1,000,001 different handstand or arm balances in yoga, and they all look different, and you might not even know it's a hand balance or an arm balance until you're in it, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I get here? And so I think it's just, mine was just growing up, but then now I've been able to really kind of weave that into my practice, and I definitely intend to do that more. Right now, I just find different ways to do it. I'll see it, I'll follow people on yoga accounts on Instagram, and then I'll try it in my practice the next day, and keep working at it. So like the one I'm working on right now is lowering from a handstand to chaturanga. So chaturanga is essentially the bottom of your tricep push-up.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from handstand to there, and that has been a journey, but I'm there and now ready to try something else. So just yoga allows a really nice vessel to incorporate handstanding into, but I think if you're beginning yoga, I would tell you two things. One, handstand holds against the wall, so belly to the wall, so that way you can really find the core connection using the tops of your feet as pushing against the wall, but not completely supporting you. So that way you find strength in your shoulders, and then because that's also going to force you to find the line. So a lot of times people arch their back and their hips are way over their shoulders. Well, try doing that and then like embracing your core. That doesn't happen just anatomically when our hips are not over our shoulder, under our shoulders. So I would say a handstand hold against the wall and then an L hold against the wall. So we do these in yoga. People hate them, but they work. And so again, you're facing, looks a little weird. Your hands are, so you can go in a downward facing dog with your hips against, your heels against the wall. So if you can picture that, a downward facing dog with your heels against the wall, then from there, all you do is walk your feet up the wall. Your hands might need to walk in slightly, so your body's making an L against the wall. And so that's going to teach you a special type of shoulder strength that is so hard, but essential to learning like true handstands.
Yeah, I was thinking the other way, that you're still facing like out away from the wall and you kick your legs down that way. I wasn't thinking of putting your feet against the wall and kind of walking up that way.
Yeah.
But,
so you definitely could do that, and that it helps people, because some people like just going upside down is the freaky part about handstands.
Yeah.
Like I think that was the best part about gymnastics for me, is that fear was gone, because I was told to do that for years before I even could develop a fear about going upside down. So doing those L holds, you're not upside down. Like, I mean, your head is, but like your body, half your body is parallel to the ground. So like it doesn't induce that fear of being upside down like maybe a true handstand does. Yeah.
I've only trained maybe one or two people like doing handstands, just to like do handstand against the wall or like handstand push-ups, like because like they don't really have. Some people really don't have the shoulder strength to even like hold it, or even like I always tell them to squeeze your abs to the wall, like you said, and also squeeze your cheeks to kind of keep that, like flat.
Like a penny between your glutes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like if your shoulders aren't flexible and you're trying to now get your ears by your shoulders, which is where you should be for a handstand, like that's going to be really uncomfortable and not possible for somebody that's super tight. So like a big CrossFit guy that hasn't stretched, and he's going to try and throw himself into a handstand. Well, that deficit here is going to make up for somewhere else in his body. So he's going to have to arch his hips over his shoulders just to find some semblance of balance to be able to hold this posture. So there's no core engaged at that point. It's compromised. And then he's learning a habit that is not going to be sustainable. And so that's where I'm not hating on any form of other workout, because I'm all about like, let's get in, get it done. But at the same time, I think there's a responsibility we have in respecting our bodies and giving back to them equally as we demand from them in whatever type of workout we do.
Yeah, I've been harping on her to do CrossFit for probably like a year and a half, very longer than that, because when I started working out in the morning, like her whole family would show up, and it was like so interesting, because I would never see, a high school, especially a high school, someone in high school at the gym at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and that took some like serious dedication. And like every day I would always see her do handstand walks. And then for me, how I got to like my handstand walks, after like every workout I did, I'd spent 15 minutes just doing drills like the whole time.
It's a discipline.
Yeah.
However, you just start out and doing it.
Yeah, and I used to do it in the back room of our gym, so it was probably like 25 to 30 feet long, and I made it once all the way through, and I was like, I stood up and I was looking around to see if anybody saw it, and of course no one was in the room, and I'm like, damn it, I should have videotaped it.
I know. It's a good feeling when you like get to a certain place, because sometimes you like need to set, like for handstand walks, if you're ready to tackle those, it's definitely like really helpful to have some type of marker to try and get to, that extra, like I'm very competitive, so like having that extra like competition with this inanimate object like a bench still does the job for, getting a little bit further.
Yeah. So have you been working with obstacles like for handstands at all, like putting your hands on a plate then walking back down?
I haven't. I think, well, because right now, since my handstands are in my yoga practice, I try and keep my yoga practice as simple as possible.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe my movements aren't simple, but in any added anything to it, I try and simplify that as much as possible. So, like, I don't use any props. A lot of people love yoga blankets, and there's yoga blocks and straps and resistance bands and all types of really props. And just like in a gym, you would walk in and see sliders and dumbbells and kettlebells. Well, yoga has the same thing, which I didn't even know about until I went to into like an actual studio, meaning like it's just dedicated to yoga versus a gym. And so I don't have anything near me when I'm doing my handstand practice, like because it's at the end of my yoga practice. So I have been tumbling out at a gymnastics facility at All Around Gymnastics. It's in McFarland Parkway or McGinnis Ferry, somewhere around there.
I think McFarland, but anyway, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's where I grew up doing gymnastics, and now I tumble there, and so I'll do handstands there. But no, I haven't tried anything. I've done that like at my, because when I would leave the gym at 5 a.m. there, I would leave, so I'd get there 5, work out to about 6:15, and then I would get to my school gym at 6:30, and I would do like compound movements. I would snatch and clean and jerk twice a week, and so we would do like handstand fun things there sometimes.
Okay, yeah. I've tried obstacles. I haven't done it in a while, but like it's just I don't have the balance quite yet. I mean, I'm good like going down. It's just like that little like maybe 1 to 2 inch, space you have to step up on. Like you have to prop your hands up on. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. So in the CrossFit games, they have this thing called this block. It's like a ramp that goes up, and then you go downstairs, and then you can kind of turn around, and you have to go back up the stairs, it's insane. It's crazy.
I want to watch that.
Yeah, and then like I don't know if it was this year or last year. They had the steps, but they had parallel bars, and so you had to go on the parallel bars and go down the ramp and then go back. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I think CrossFit's amazing in how much you learn how strong your body is. Like, that is so important in whatever health journey you are. It's like learning that your body can do more than you think it can, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just that's my due diligence as a yoga teacher is, okay, people, let's not forget the other side about that. It's like you're demanding a lot from your body in the hour that you practice CrossFit. And so we need to make sure that we're being responsible and giving back what we've taken. And so I found that through yoga. Like, there are many ways to give back to your body, and people do cryotherapy, hyperbaric chambers, all different types of things, and you're gonna find what works for you. But I would just say that being responsible in that way, and if we're gonna have a true appreciation for how strong our bodies are, we need out of that appreciation to be loving and kind towards it as well.
Yeah, I agree. Because like there's been times when I've done like the yin yoga where I kind of like overstretch, I think, to the point where it starts. Yeah, to where a point it gets like almost at the point where it's like really it's like almost painful, but it's not.
So that's something that definitely happens. Is like if you get into yoga with the same, and this might not be you. This was me when I first started practicing. I got into yoga with I would come into that room with the same mentality as when I was stepping into the gym to lift weights. Well, that doesn't line up when we're stretching versus lifting, right? And so when we're stretching and we go in with mentality like it has to hurt to work, that's when, muscles are pulled and we're injured. And so that was really part of the anatomical side of my yoga practice, was finding, okay, if we're going to move bodies and lead bodies in movement during a yoga class, how do we do that responsibly and make their safety our number one priority, right? And so, there's many different ways to do that. Don't have my full certification, but a large part of my training was with yoga tune-up balls. And so these are really, these therapy balls mimic the skin, of your skin.
Yeah.
And basically they're fascial release. So there are self-massage tools really that release your fascia, which is your body's connective tissue. And so that does in 10 minutes what hours in a yin yoga class achieves. And so I've got to see that, especially in these football players or CrossFit players. I haven't seen it personally. My teacher has instructed CrossFit gyms about shifting from that mentality to it doesn't have to hurt to work, to okay, let me just see if I can release here and find ease and give back to my body in this way. I've watched football players that literally their hands didn't go past their knees are now going in forward folds, their hands are close to their feet. It's crazy how that happens. And so just part of that, you can do that in tune-up balls, but another way to move responsibly is I always botch his name, but it's proprioceptive neuroreception, something crazy, and I could get the official name, but basically it's if you're in a movement, you're going to provide some way to make your muscles think that it's working. So because when your muscle is thinking that it's working, it won't be pulled. So if you know what pigeon pose, I'm sure you know what pigeon pose is.
That's one of the worst movements for me.
Yes. So instead of trying to just throw your chest down towards the ground and find some type of crazy posture in this, a lot of times we will cue instead. Okay, so instead of even putting your chest down, sit up on your hips and inhale to squeeze your inner thighs towards your midline so much that your back knee might actually lift off the ground. So you're finding work in those muscles that they can't be pulled when they're working like that. That doesn't happen. And so then you release down and let your chest fall down to the ground, and it's such a better relief, and it's not painful, because your mind has been tricked, honestly.
Yeah. And
your muscles then can finally relax. So there's definitely ways in yoga to find release that it's not painful.
Okay, very cool. So have you ever thought, I know you do the IGTV stuff, but have you ever thought doing YouTube videos and stuff?
Yeah, so somebody asked me this week about that. So on my yoga account, it's Cambri Yoga on Instagram, it definitely, it has morphed into sometimes kind of a lifestyle thing, just because my yoga journey has affected my way I view my body. So that has affected many areas of my life, way beyond just my 20 minutes a day that I practice yoga, or more or less, whatever it is. And so 2 days ago, I was trying to film, I make a healthy coffee recipe every afternoon, pretty much. So I was trying to share that on my account. So I had it all set up, and it was awful. The video was absolutely terrible. I was this cannot be posted anywhere, just because it just wasn't me. It seemed forced. So I'm definitely working on getting more comfortable in front of the camera, because I can stand up there and teach, doing the videoing the flows and posting those are not that's not uncomfortable for me, just because I'm in my element and I've prepared for that. So it's definitely something I'm looking into, but I'm just taking it one day at a time as I hopefully get more comfortable in front of the camera in that way.
Yeah, it takes a while to get the hang of it. I mean, even with me with this podcast, when the first couple episodes are just me talking all by myself, I would talk for the first minute and then like I mess up something, and like there've been times I had to restart the whole episode like 20 times just because I missed it. But like after a while, it's just like, you know what, just screw it, just put it out there. Who cares? I mean, obviously you're going to get better later on down the road. So I just think I think you should just start doing it. Seriously.
I just think that if I can do whatever I'm doing with authenticity and I feel confident in that authenticity, then that is what I want to share with others. And so like that's the intention I come with to every yoga class, is like, one, I pray like, God, please use me in whatever way he wants, for however the people need in my class, but another to just come in my most authentic way. So like that's why when I plan a yoga class, I don't sit down and write things down before I've had my personal practice that day and I've felt what feels nice. Obviously sometimes like there needs to be more structure, so out of that 20-minute yoga flow that I do that day, I have to sit down and add structure to it in some ways. But it's definitely, as long as I can come authentically to like my class and I can learn to come authentically to a video and sharing whatever I'm sharing, then I'll definitely do it. So be on the lookout.
I mean, I bet you yoga with Ardeen for her first couple episodes were rough.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. I just say screw it, just do it. But
okay. I'll think about it.
So obviously, you graduated high school. You're going to Vanderbilt. So have you actually scoped out like any of the yoga studios in that area or reached out?
So I'm in that process. I need to do more research, to be honest. But with a little bit of uncertainty about what this fall is looking like, it's not been on the forefront of my mind, but I've definitely looked into yoga studios. I won't have my card the first year, so that's been another element to think about as, because like there's sometimes respectfully to like find a spot at a yoga studio, you kind of like court the yoga studio, and you'll want to go there and like practice because you're going to be a part of the community as much as you're offering. Like it's going to give to you as much as you're offering it. And so I want to make sure that I can have value to the community, but also like I can really like receive from it as well. So really I plan to, in my first like month, try as many different yoga classes as I can.
Yep.
If you're new to yoga and don't know this, a lot of yoga studios will just have a drop-in class fee, and like it's not that expensive, and some places will even let you come for free for your first time, and that's a great way to like find out what the studio's about. So I plan to do that, and I also hope to work with the athletic department and just like muscular rehabilitation and restoration for athletes, as that was a big part of my training. So we'll see where that takes me, but I definitely plan to teach at, if not one, maybe more studios in Nashville.
Very cool. So what are you going to school for?
I'm going to study human organization and development with an international organizations focus, so it's a very social skilled leadership building program, but I'm also going to double major. I haven't picked in either public policy or law, history, and society.
Okay, very cool.
Yep. And minor in Spanish, but I'm also I love learning in that way, so I'm just going to take as many classes as I can.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I took more classes and I, took another double major, but I mean, I love learning. I just think it's so much fun, just of all the stuff that, you pick up, even from like listening to podcasts, like fitness podcasts for me, or, talking to you about, yoga, or, and that's the reason why I did this. So,
yeah, it's all learning experience. Like learning in yoga will never be done for me. Like that, there's always more to learn, and definitely so much I learned through my training experience, but a whole world's like more to learn, and that's part of being any type of fitness instructor or movement guide. And that way is like making sure that we know best how to move other bodies safely and responsibly, so that way when we know better and we've learned, we do better. So it's definitely a learning process.
Yeah. So who do you follow obviously, if for other people, like other than you, for my listeners to follow you, what other yoga instructors on like social media are good to follow and like get a good understanding of what they're all about?
Yeah. So I love my yoga teacher, obviously, because I'm just partial to her because she's the best.
Mm-hmm.
But Lauren Reese, she's with Breathe Yoga. She was my teacher, so I love her. I follow Yogo Skins, like YOGOSKENZ, and she's awesome. She is very much a yogi rebel in the way she speaks her mind and incorporates yoga into doing that. So she's super great. And then I follow Chelsea. I don't remember her. Let me see if I can find her really quick. But Chelsea is basically just she has awesome sequencing, and so sometimes as a yoga like instructor, it's completely okay. It's Chelsea's yoga. That's easy. And so those three. But sometimes like we need inspiration, and like as a yoga community, we completely tag team off each other in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no hard feelings or anything like that, and taking from others' ideas and incorporating it into our own. So that's a really great part of the whole yoga experience. So I definitely lean into their videos. It's like, ooh, I want to try this. So they're all great.
Awesome, very cool.
Chelsea's yoga, she has an entire book about how she learned how to handstand, complete, like chock full of all these drills. So if somebody is interested in really walking through that process as a discipline, it's a great opportunity.
All right, very cool. So I have a couple questions left. So obviously with the whole coronavirus going on, you know, everyone's has kind of had to stay at home, but what are your goals for the end of the year?
The end of the year? Nobody's asked me this yet. Well, I hope at that time I'm settled into whatever my life looks like at Vanderbilt. So I already know I'm coming home November 20th till spring semester. So really, I think the end of the year will kind of look like November 20th for me, since once I get home, it'll just be exams and, you know, the holidays with my family. Mm-hmm. So really, I think settling into a new studio in Nashville, hoping to begin already teaching there, and then finding my place in the athletic department there, you know, teaching whatever that looks like. And then I think my goal is just to really continue the spontaneity that my like fitness workout journey has taken since Corona, because I like I said, I canceled my gym membership, and so I haven't been in a gym since the second to the last week of March. And so I've really done a different type of workout every single day. Like mm-hmm. There's not a day, and some people will say, you know, routine's better, but I've done routine for the past 4 years of my life.
That's boring. That's boring.
Yeah, and so it's really nice that I found so many different workouts that I like, and like I'm doing dance cardio. Like I never thought I would do dance cardio, and time to like go on different types of, you know, different like walks around like my community that I've never even been to before, but lived here my whole life. So just continuing that journey of like being creative, because I think out of that creativity, like in our movement, comes like a better appreciation, a deeper appreciation for our bodies and how they move. Because like it shifts from like I have to work out to I get to work out, and so by, you know, changing it up, that appreciation comes easier. And another trick I do for that appreciation is whenever I'm working out and something's really hard, people make fun of me for this, but I smile. Like I literally like just make myself have the goofiest smile I can while I'm like in the like most freaking hard thing I'm doing in that workout, just because like it's just a small, but I mean honestly there's been studies about how that affects you mentally, just smiling, just a physical act of smiling. So just getting to, I think just continuing that journey of really appreciating my body. And then my goal is hopefully to grow my yoga account so all yoga instructors are independent contractors. Mm-hmm. So that definitely looks different, and having to, you know, build my own name if that's something I hope to have, which it is. So building my account and just finding ways to serve people, like, you know, I think everyone, you know, wants direction, and because everyone's health journey is different, but we all want direction. I want direction, and so sometimes just having encouragement in that way, I definitely want to find better ways to do that and more ways to do that.
All right, very cool. All right, so next question is, what is your favorite book? It can be fiction, nonfiction, like self-help, like whatever.
Well, I've been reading a lot this summer because that was one of my goals this summer, was to read as much as I can. I loved Rhythms of Renewal. It's by Rebecca Lyons. She's a friend of my mom's, and it's all about rest, which is super hard for me to do. Like, that's why I love yoga, because it makes me do that. But for many other aspects of my life, like, that is something my body fights. It's not natural for me. And so Rhythms of Renewal is literally a book about how we can find rest and restoration in just our daily lives. So it's awesome. I love that book. And then I think another awesome book I just learned so much in was First, about Sandra Day O'Connor. It was a biography done about her. And regardless of anybody's career views or decisions, I think just reading about somebody and their journey is just really something I really appreciate, just getting to hear about other people's journeys and how they got to where they are, because obviously she has a very well-respected legacy as the first woman justice ever. So just awesome. I love reading. That's not really common, but it's a good.
Well, that's good. And then, so two more. So what would you say to a person that wants to get into the yoga space, like what to expect when you first start out?
I think it depends on where you start out. So a lot of people, I think, are more comfortable starting out on their own, because walking into studio can be very intimidating for most people, which I totally understand. Like, where I started, in the hot yoga room at One Life, it was, it's dark. There's no one's paying attention to you because you're all sweating so much, like, you can't even see through your eyes.
Yeah,
so,
and you guys are super close, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not happening anytime soon with COVID. But I would say, coming into it, have no expectation other than, like, making it your goal to be open to, like, what that hour has for you. And it might not be for you, but going in with just open hands into, like, whatever that type of practice is going to do for your mind and body, because most likely it's going to be a type of down regulation like you never experienced in your daily go life. Like, yoga, I always say there are many forms to self-care, but yoga is truly something that we do not experience. Just connecting our breath to our movement. Like, just think about, if you've ever been stressed and take a deep breath, how wondrous that is for your body.
Yeah.
But then think about a whole hour of that and connecting it to mindful movement. Like, that's really powerful, just anatomically, physically, for your body and what happens. And so I would say coming into it with open hands, but also in a way that's comfortable. So if going into studio at first, like, really freaks you out, like, the idea of that, maybe find a studio that, like, it's a beginner level class, and it's not definitely know what type of yoga you're getting into. So do a little research about, like, if you're going to take a yin class, you should have a different expectation about what the class is going to be versus if you're going to vinyasa flow. And that doesn't take a lot of research to know. And then another thing is, you can always start at home. Like, there are so many yoga videos on YouTube, and I really can't recommend any, because I love Yoga with Adrienne, so that's where I go when I want to do a video online. But it's a safe space to create anywhere. So, like, if you're fearful of stepping into that space, then start where you're comfortable in your in your own home.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's better than not starting.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to thank you very much for being on this podcast.
Well, thank you. It's such a get me talking, and I'm especially about yoga. I'm good.
Yeah. I learned a ton, and I hope my listeners did too. But I wanted to ask you, like, where, if anybody has any questions for you, where can they find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, probably my yoga account on Instagram would be easiest. It's at Cambri Yoga, CAMBRI Yoga. And there you can message me. I try and stay pretty active on there and sharing like what I do and what my yoga looks like and workouts and everything in between. I have a lot of healthy recipes and workouts, and through quarantine, I did a whole movement motivation series about, it was a little overwhelming seeing for me like the billions of lives workouts that were going on. So I would just post one a day. So now you have like 50 plus workout options to just really like maybe find that creativity in your movement that you haven't before. So message me on there and I'll, get back to you in a few days. But I would love to hear from anybody.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right.